The gavel hits the room, freezes, and the board votes 4-1 to remove Brenda Collins from the architectural committee for filing false complaints and harassing a homeowner. That homeowner is me, and I don't cheer or gloat. I just press a little gray remote and watch the boom arm at the end of my driveway rise like a verdict. Simple, quiet, Shinano. My name is Noah Reed. I live in Maple Grove, Colorado, the kind of cul-de-sac where lawns look ironed and the mailboxes all match. My wife, Ava, is a nurse who survives on black coffee and lists my son. Max is 11 and plays goalkeeper. Like every shot matters more than oxygen. And for a long time, our mornings were ruled by one person who decided the rules didn't apply to her. It started small. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it only felt small, because I was trying to be a good neighbor. You know what I mean? Those first weeks when I'd hit the garage opener at sunrise, ease down the driveway, and find a silver crossover parked perpendicular across my exit. Like a barricade, not a tire on the edge, not a casual slip, but a full blockade. You had to admire for the audacity alone. I laid on the horn. Nothing. No curtain, twitch, no porch light. Just me and my patience running out. So I walked to a river stone walkway and knocked. Then rang, then knocked again, until Brenda opened the door, with that face I can still see. The faux surprised smile that says, "This is your problem, and I'm going to make you feel rude for pointing it out." "Noah, is everything all right?" she cooed, like I'd shown up to borrow sugar. "Your car is blocking my driveway," I said. And she widened her eyes. "Oh, silly me. I just popped over to drop a form at Linda's. I'll move it right away." And right away. Took 5 minutes of slipper shuffling and key jingling like she was docking a yacht. It didn't stop next day. A white SUV day after the crossover. Some days, both like a parade, I tried sticky notes, the polite kind first. Then the firm kind. Found the polite one crumpled in her recycling on top of a LaCroix box, like a flag of surrender. That wasn't mine, tried cones. Bright orange from a contractor. Supply shop that smelled like dust and resignation. Lined them up like tiny soldiers, and came out 2 days later to find them stacked in a neat pyramid on my lawn, like a trophy, while her car sat exactly where they had been called. The police once, out of sheer hope, watched 2 officers do. The weary dance worn her. "Shrug at me, civil matter, sir." Called a tow company and got a laugh. I could have bottled private property liability. You understand, emailed the HOA and got a paragraph about neighborly harmony that felt like copy-paste from 2004. And through it all, I told myself, breathe, it'll pass. It didn't pass. It escalated. And then came the morning that still kicks me in the ribs. Max's City League final kickoff at 9. We needed to roll by 8. He stood in those bright orange goalie gloves bouncing on the balls of his feet, nerves glittering in his eyes. I hit the opener, and there's a black truck. Greg's truck. Brenda's husband angled across my driveway, and half the sidewalk like a dare. I rang their bell until my knuckles went numb. I heard a TV in there. No one came. We left at 8:40 after the most casual move-out. You can imagine, showed up at halftime lost by 1. Max tried to smile, said, "It's fine, Dad. I know it's not your fault, but..." His voice cracked, and I knew exactly who he blamed, and he wasn't wrong. That night, I opened my laptop like it was a tool, and I was finally ready to use it. Read the city code until my eyes went dry. read our bylaws, fell into forums where strangers argued about easements like it was a blood sport. And the next day at a hospital garage, I watched a boom arm drop with a soft clunk behind my bumper. And a thought just landed in my head. What if the solution isn't beg her to move? What if the solution is make it physically impossible for her not to? Yeah, that happened. I said it out loud in the car, like a person who has finally run out of patience. I didn't know if you could do that at a house, so I kept reading. Learned about photo eyes and induction loops and torque thresholds and UL ratings. Found the little line that changed everything as long as the structure sits inside my property line and doesn't obstruct the public sidewalk. There's no prohibition against a motorized access control arm. Our bylaws. Have 3 pages on fences and 2 on mailboxes, and a hymn to approved pavers. But nothing on boom arms. Imagine that. 2 security companies chuckled, like I'd asked for a drawbridge, a 3rd Apex entry systems. Didn't the owner, Dylan Kerr, listened and repeated it back slowly. You want an 11-foot barrier arm with an operator cabinet loops in the asphalt. Safety eyes, documented logs on your driveway. And I said, calm permitted, inspected with a diagnostic file. So if anyone lies about an impact, I have receipts, he said. It's unconventional, but if you're serious, I'll quote it. Ava saw the number and rubbed her temples. Are we building a toll road, or are we just exhausted? I'm done asking permission to leave my house. Installation. Morning felt like a small movie. Pale sun. Apex trucks, neighbors in sweaters pretending to check their mail while they filmed. Saw cuts for loops. Trench from the panel to a perfect concrete pad. An aluminum arm, with warning stripes that swung up smooth as a whisper. Alvarez. Across the street, whispering, Dios mío, while kids on bikes named it the gate, like it was a character, and Brenda watching with a hand on her hip and a mouth that could curdle milk. What is this abomination? She demanded, loud enough to echo off the clubhouse. My driveway, I said. My access control inside my line, permitted inspected. Safer than your oopsies. And that night, the certified letter arrived like winter violation for non-conforming structure. Aesthetic deviation, immediate removal, requested fines. In 7 days, I put it on the counter, took a breath for the first time in months, and slept. County officers came because Brenda said the arm almost crushed her car. Dylan pulled diagnostic logs on a tablet. We scrolled opens and closes, beam breaks and reversals, no impact events. The officer, careful but clear, said the magic words. Structurally. You're fine. This is a civil matter. And left, and the HOA called an emergency review with the usual burnt coffee smell and folding chairs. Their attorney showed a slideshow of my home before and after, and a stock porch. You could smell through the screen, warned about property values and precedence and harmony. I laid out my binder photos with timestamps, the crumpled notes, the cones stacked like a trophy, the police report, the code line, the electrical inspection. Stamped the machine logs and said, "This isn't an eyesore. It's what you build when you're trapped in your own driveway, and everyone tells you to be patient." My kid missed his final. You called it a civil matter. I built a civil solution. They didn't order removal. They started fines instead. 50 a day to 75 to 100 a squeeze play. Dressed up as aesthetics. I paid a few to buy time and had my friend Tom draft a letter with case law sharp enough to shave. Eleanor. Avery, our HOA president, showed up with that polished smile and said the board was very concerned about the appearance. It sets a precedent we cannot allow, and I asked if she meant the precedent, where a homeowner secures access to his house because the association chooses hairlines over actual harm. The smile cracked, and she offered the face-saving route, repainted to sandstone. Missed submit photos. Maybe the fines stop. So I stared at the arm in evening light. Decided function beats flair. And Dylan rolled on khaki beige until the thing blended into the block like it had been born there. Brenda hated beige. More than stripes, marched to the curb and yelled, "You think this makes you win?" I clicked the remote and watched the arm rise. "No," I said. "It makes me able to leave my house. Here's the twist. And it's the part that still makes me laugh a little. The city planning department asked to inspect the install for a case study on residential access control. Dylan had bragged on a contractor for him, and somebody at City Hall got curious. The inspector, Marcus Lee, checked the loops and cabinet and torque limits and said, "Meets code safety is adequate." Frankly, I wish more neighborhoods solved disputes like this instead of yelling. Brenda heard that because Brenda hears everything, and her complaints kept coming. Delivery, confusion, danger to children, industrial vibe, dramatic captions, petitions of one, and then the compliance review hit the agenda like a final exam. The clubhouse hummed read barrier item 3. Brenda led with theater. "It's hostile. It divides Maple Grove. It endangers kids and drivers." And I heard a neighbor behind me whisper, "At least he can leave his house now." You could feel the room shifting not toward me exactly, just away from the nonsense. And when it was my turn, I didn't perform. I set paper on the table like cards before and after. Photos permit copies. Inspector sign-off, machine logs that showed no contact on the dates, she claimed. Near Mrs. Tom's letter, citing the boring cases that win real fights. And I said quietly, "The only thing this arm is hostile to is entitlement." The board attorney leaned into Eleanor. Eleanor nodded and said, "The installation as repainted and documented is compliant fines, rescinded violations withdrawn, and as for Miss Collins, multiple statements materially conflict with recorded logs and inspection notes. The board moves to remove her from the architectural committee. For cause, the vote was 4-1. The gavel fell, and I walked outside into bright blue and pressed the button. The arm rose, and it sounded like a zipper closing on a bag full of petty. So did I solve a problem or build a fortress? Am I the guy who stood up to a bully, or the guy who brought an airport to a cul-de-sac? That's the debate, and honestly, have it, because I live with the simplest answer. My kid doesn't watch a clock anymore and wonder if a neighbor's mood will keep him from his life, and I don't spend mornings begging someone who thinks rules are optional to please be considerate. The arm is beige. Now the UPS driver pauses. The mailman figured it out. Kids call it the gate, and try to guess the timing until I tell them to knock it off. Ava doesn't flinch when the mail arrives. The letters stopped. Brenda still parks a little too close sometimes and glares like the sun owes her something. But the power is gone, and that's the difference you feel in your bones. Boundaries aren't mean. They're the shape of your life, and sometimes you draw them with a note, sometimes with patience, and sometimes with aluminum and concrete. Because if you don't defend your boundaries, someone like Brenda will redraw them for you. Tell me what you think in the comments, be honest. Did I go too far, or just far enough? Are HOAs protecting neighborhoods or protecting control? Have you seen rules get weaponized against common sense? Drop your city and local time. Tell me your story. And if this hit a nerve, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.